every time people kind of start to consider selling on Amazon, they basically assume that their only viable option is to source a product from Alibaba in China. And so this is a common assumption, but it's actually not necessarily the case, right? So I've actually found products that are significantly cheaper and better quality in other markets, and we're going to go through a few of them right now. One of the cool ones that I found is actually the Indian version of Alibaba. And so India is very good at kind of creating textiles, clothing, and wooden products. They're kind of known for that, and because they are known for that, they're where I went to for those specific type of products. They're good for making, wooden cases, whether you're making cigar holders or any type of gift item. If you can create kind of that added value with a nice finished wood case, it can really add a lot of synergistic value to your bundle. So let's take a quick look at the Indian Alibaba, right? So we do Indian suppliers. Let's go ahead and check out blankets, right? Because they're a common export from India, right? And so they have beautiful textiles here. Yeah, just like so, a lot of great stuff. So before I would order on Alibaba for anything, cloth related, I would definitely cross-reference it here with the Indian version of Alibaba, and I've included the link to Indian Alibaba in your guys' resource right here. So one of the other cool markets that I've kind of been taking a look at is Vietnam. So Vietnam is actually becoming even cheaper than China to source products. One of the main problems with Vietnam right now is that they kind of don't have the processes and the years of experience that the Chinese manufacturers and sales representatives have. They don't necessarily normally have as strong of English, and so if you're a native English speaker and you don't speak Vietnamese, sometimes the Vietnamese market isn't necessarily worth the time because it's not going to save you enough money to kind of be worth that extra headache. So it's definitely worth considering, right? Because one of the cool advantages about using India or Vietnamese Alibaba is you really don't have as much competition, right? There aren't thousands of eyes constantly, contacting these manufacturers, which brings the leverage kind of back toward you, where you can, have a bit more leeway in your negotiations because you're one of, 100 people or 10 people who's contacting these companies rather than 500 or 1,000 per day. And then the final one that we want to look at really quickly is a very cool product that I've actually used to source a number of my different private labels, and this is called Thomasnet. And so this is basically the only real alternative to Alibaba. Thomasnet is actually based out of the United States, and so one of the cool things about it is it immediately tells you, right? So not only this, right? So it actually gives you autofill similar to Google and Amazon. So if you want to get into a niche but you don't have a specific idea of what you want to do, you can kind of start typing solar, right? And maybe we're looking at solar lights, solariums, smart living, solar collectors, solar area lighting, right? And so let's take a look at solar powered lights. So a cool thing also is they tell you right off the bat the number of suppliers that they actually have who sell those things. Right, and another cool feature that I like about Thomasnet is that you actually have the ability to filter down these manufacturers and suppliers based on their certifications, their ownership, their company type, right, other certifications, product details, and you can even refine further and further. You can even go down to location served. So if you want to be close to an FBA warehouse or your freight forwarder's warehouse, you can do that also. Another cool part about Thomasnet is actually the ability to compare multiple manufacturers, right, just with the click of a button. And so you can take a look kind of quickly at Backwood Solar Electric, Checkers Safety Group, whether it's a manufacturer, so it's the first party, you can kind of think that you might get a little bit better of a price there, rather than a distributor or a wholesaler who has to take their cut between the manufacturer and the next step in the process. You can see how many years they've been in business, their sales, right? So you can get a good idea of the validity of their company itself. And just the last thing I want to say about Thomasnet, guys, is I think the common assumption that you can really only be profitable sourcing and selling products through e-commerce, through Amazon, by buying them in China is just simply not true anymore. With Thomasnet and with the availability of manufacturers in the USA, you can actually be very viable, and in some cases you can actually save money by sourcing in the United States. And the reason that you can save money is you're not always necessarily going to get a better per unit cost, but you will have significantly lower lead times and obviously ship times, because you don't have to get it from another country all the way to the USA. And you're going to save a ton of money on those shipping costs and on the freight forwarding and all the customs fees and the port fees and all of that, right? Because it's already in the United States. And so those are some cool things that I like about, the India Alibaba, Vietnam Alibaba, and ThomasNet. So definitely make sure you're checking those out, being able to cross-reference, get as much leverage as you can with pricing and be able to save as much money as possible. So I hope you guys enjoy that one, and we'll see you on the next one.